Welcome to Solo TV 84. I'm your gracious host, Solo. You may have seen a rise in content in the last few years of people talking about how things just aren't the same or don't feel right since 2020.
Things have not been the same since 2020. You look at any aspect of life. You look at working. We all work, you know. You look at relationships. We all have different relationships. You look at the future.
And do you guys feel it? Yes, you do feel it. What say you, LUI? What say you? What do we feel? Well, the shift that is happening, as a matter of fact, it is happening since more or less 2020, give or take. So it's almost 5 years. And a lot of people are just feeling it. The way to describe it is rather tedious and hard. You cannot put words on it really, but it's just here. Something in the ether around us, something in the matrix.
A lot of people say you got to stop being negative, think positive. There's good things to life. I can't really think of many, if not at all, any at all. But, you know, it's just not a good future today. I feel bad for the future generation. I even feel bad for myself and people of our age because we got to keep going so many years possibly into this misery, you know. It's just, life is just getting more and more harder. Everything's just becoming more, it's like the system's trying to make us crack like an egg. That's how I look at it as.
So Flashback, 2019, my YouTube channel is growing, not just in regards to subscribers and views, but growing as well in regards to my connections. Not only that, but in the fashion industry, I'm finally able to network myself into the spaces with the heavy hitters in my city, right? And I remember in March of 2020, I was doing an interview with a crypto millionaire, and we were at the W, there were drinks, there were beautiful girls there. And then literally the next week, it's quarantine, the pandemic. And my life has completely changed since then, right? And when you think about that time of quarantine, you have a couple different people. You have people that took that time to self-reflect, do self-introspection, and then they got busy, right? They started grinding, they started working out, eating healthy, or just working better. Then you have people on the other side of the spectrum who became depressed, they got anxiety, dealt with family members becoming sick, some people even passing away in their family. And a lot of us also dealt with loneliness, right? Now, I have a hypothesis in regards to why there are certain people who are feeling that since 2020, there is a shift. In 2020, it forced a lot of people to finally have to confront things that they may have been ignoring or running from. A lot of people ended up breaking up, or their marriage, they ended up becoming divorced, right? Because now you had to spend time with partners. There were also a lot of people that were lonely, and they had to deal with certain things that they may have been putting off. Things such as addiction, not getting things done, not addressing certain things that still bother them up to that time, right? Or even up to now. And so it forced a lot of people to really self-reflect and do self-introspection. But more importantly, it allowed us to slow down, to focus on things that truly mattered. And that's why I believe that a lot of people didn't want to go back to work no more, because of the fact that a lot of us were burned out. A lot of us are dealing with trauma from back then that we're still dealing with, because let's be honest, I do believe that because of the fact that so many people are feeling that there's a shift or feeling that things have changed, that collectively we're dealing with trauma, right? And I'm not a psychologist or doctor, you guys know that. But we know that depression went up, anxiety went up, people self-deleting went up as well. And you can see that different people dealt with the quarantine and pandemic situation differently than others, okay? You notice a lot of people now have an attitude problem. People just are rude. A lot of people have a temper. People are really not trying to, they're more distrusting, right? And then you also notice people that have thrived and people that have become more positive. people that have become more successful, right? And I think that what happened is a lot of people also started to pay attention to what was going on economically. When you have the top, the Fortune 500 companies making $14 trillion in America, right? 2/3 of the economy, and they're making buku dollars in 2020 and 2021 and 2022 even, right? And a lot of people were like, hold on, what's going on? And this is what created the Wall Street bets. This is what created the rise in crypto as well, because people started to pay attention and seeing that, hey, these companies are making money hand over fist and we're broke, okay? And then, of course, quiet quitting became a thing because we're overworked and underpaid. A lot of people are not getting paid enough, or they're not getting a raise that matches the living conditions that we're dealing with now in regards to inflation, high rent or housing prices, gas, food, etc., right? And so there's a lot of cynicism right now in the world, because when you look at it right now, especially when you go on social media, it's never been as toxic like this, especially when we're talking about politics, right? And me personally, I don't even talk to politics to people because I just don't want to give people my energy that are not deserving of it. And I think that's one of the things too that you've noticed is that a lot of us are tired. A lot of us aren't getting good sleep, even up to now, right? And so a lot of people are still dealing with the ramifications that happened in 2020. Some people have gotten over it and they're doing fine. Like I said, they're thriving. But then there's some people who they haven't recovered and they're still depressed, still dealing with anxiety, still dealing with other issues. And I think that right now we are in the middle of a transition. You can see that the world is changing, right? When you look at things that are going on geopolitically with Israel, Iran, etc., Lebanon, right? When you see what's going on financially, economically, not just in America, but also Japan, China, the whole world is basically broke. Listen, the elites F the money up. Let's just be honest, okay? The world is broke, right? And when you start to look at it, even with dating, how now third spaces are gone, a lot of clubs, bars, restaurants, places where you used to be able to meet women, they're like dead now, right? And online dating is trash. I mean, we've talked about this before. I truly believe that humanity, we're at an impasse right now, and we have to make a choice of which directions we're going to go, right? Because right now, the world feels like Stranger Things, the upside down, where what's wrong is now right and what's right is now wrong. Let me give you a perfect example. I remember back in March of 2020, I never heard of OnlyFans before. Then in April of 2020, OnlyFans was everywhere. I mean, it literally exploded. And what I found weird about OnlyFans is how the MSM, mainstream media, kept pushing it to the point that it was like they were glorifying it and making it seem like, yeah, you need to go on OnlyFans because I'm making $500,000 or I'm making $2 million, right? And then you fast forward a few years later, now you have women coming out and saying, I regret doing OnlyFans. OnlyFans ruined my life. We're also seeing blatant corruption by, politicians, people, celebrities, and some of these people are, they're in jail, and some of these people are going to go to jail. But we're at a time right now where the corruption is so blatant and brazen that it's kind of like they're mocking us. It's like, na 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 boo boo, we're breaking the law, and it's right in front of your face. And you know what, guys? My take is this. As I mentioned before, I believe that we are in a transition period right now where humanity has to make a choice. Are we going to elevate and push back and, go course correct to the way that the creator wanted us to go to? Or are we going to continue to fall into this abyss? Because the truth is, the last 4 or 5 years, it's been a spiritual war. And I genuinely believe that because of the fact that I notice the people that are able to the people that are aware of this shift or this transition or that nothing has been the same since 2020, those people tend to be more spiritually in tune or they're more sensitive to the world around them. Have you noticed that there's still people that are living life like nothing has changed? And I'm not judging them or saying it's bad, but I see people that are still partying every weekend. They're still going to the club every weekend and things like that. Now, you guys know me. A few years ago, I was one of those people where I would always go out every weekend, always try to party, this and that. And now my life has completely changed where I'm focused more on the things that matter. I'm focused on becoming closer with my creator, right? Jesus Christ. And I do believe that the shift is pushing us towards a brand new world. Listen, when people talk about going back to normal, we're never going to go back to the world what it was in 2019. When we're talking about shifts, right? And I can think in my lifetime, I know older people, they'll have their lifetimes, but for me, the first major shift I ever felt was 9/11. The second major shift was 2007. And that's those type of events, 9/11, 2007 is when the economy crashed where I was at. You could tell right away that something had changed. You couldn't explain it. You couldn't put a finger to it, but you could just feel it, right? And now 2020 was definitely a shift. However, 2020, we're still shifting. And I believe that God is what he's doing is he's basically fixing the timeline, right? Because humanity, we've been going down the direction that we shouldn't go to. And I think 2020 was a time for people to rise up and say, we're not gonna take it. And instead, the government told y'all to stay home and everybody stayed home. Like nobody really thought. Yeah, some people did go protest and riot and stuff like that. But as a collective, everybody just sat at home and said, okay, right? And the crazy part is, I believe they're going to run the same playbook again. They're going to tell you it's another pandemic that is worse than before. And then a lot of people are going to be like, okay. And whether you believe me or not, listen, this is my hypothesis. I believe what I believe because I do believe that right now we're in an era where things are coming to a head. And even if you don't believe me, you can't look at the world and say we don't live in unusual times when you have a person running for president, the former president who is running for president, right? And they try to assassinate him twice. And it happened and people act like next week, oh, like nothing happened. People forget. Like, because right now we're in an era where we're constantly getting bombarded by news on social media and people are, just don't care. They've become numb to it, right? People have become numb and that is scary. And that's why when you walk around in public and you see people scowling or their heads down in their phones, it's like NPCs. You're in a restaurant, people got their phones out, NPCs. You at a bar or a club, people got their phones out, NPCs. It's like everybody has become numb to people around them, to forming real relationships, that everybody's more glued to their phones. And I really believe a lot of people are addicted to their phones, myself included. A lot of us are addicted to social media. And the joy that we got out of life, the reason why we don't have it right now is because a lot of us don't have fulfilling relationships. That's why you see such a rise in content of also people talk about, I don't have any friends. I'm 25 years old. I don't have any friends. Or I'm 40 years old. I don't have any friends. We are the most disconnected generation ever. And it's very sad. And I do believe that we're in an era right now where this transition that we're in, it's a spiritual transition. There's some people that are more in tuned and they're embracing it. And then there's some people that are trying to fight it. And the reality is that 2025 will be a year unlike any year that humanity has ever seen before. And it all starts November 5th, 2024.